Welcome back to another episode. My name is Dr. Al Garza, and I'm here to basically to answer a question that I'm getting in emails regarding the difference between determinism or fate within Calvinism versus free will or choice that's more consistent with the scriptures and first century Judaism, specifically within the area of the Pharisees. So, first, let me say this. There's there's been a lot of debate on this. A lot of Reformed Calvinists do not have a really good understanding of first century Pharisaical Judaism, uh, the different areas of what their beliefs were, and this is where they deviate and go off into other areas developed by Augustine and his Latin understanding of the scriptures from Latin, and going into to John Calvin. So I made this clear in a number of areas. So I don't want to repeat myself. I'm going to try to keep this short. But I've written papers on the subject you can find in academia, which I leave links below. I've made other videos discussing the idea how Paul, as a Pharisee from the house of Hillel at the feet of Gamaliel, did not believe in fate and determinism the way a Calvinist would. Now, some Calvinists don't like the word determinism, like Dr. White, who has changed his, category, and he wants to get away from word determinism. But it doesn't matter because within the first century, they understood it as a type of fate in a Greek word that determines fate or determinism, and that's what the Essenes believed. Sadducees only believed in more of the free will, and that's it. There is no fate or determinism by any means by God. And then, of course, the Pharisees had a combination of both. They believe that God has a determined plan for the nations, for the people, as well as men, and everybody has the ability to choose life or death, right or wrong. This is written by Josephus and other historians, written in Jewish literature. This is unrefutable. So Paul's theology would not have changed after coming to know Jesus as the Savior when Jesus appeared to him. It's not going to change. And I've been asked about how do I explain this in a more simple terms. Well, you could, one, I'd say definitely do your homework on understanding Pharisees of that time and those ideas and what Josephus talks about in other writings. But it's simple as this. I've taken a lot of different classes in biology and in different sciences. I own medical trade schools. I've written curriculum in the medical field. I've done a lot of research and schooling for the medical field. So let me put it to you this way. We all understand what voluntary or involuntary actions mean with the body, our body. So involuntary means, of course, that things that we can't control, like our breathing, our heart, our blood circulation throughout the body. That just happens. We're not making it happen. We're not willing it to happen. It just happens. That's the involuntary action of the body. Now, voluntary action means I can raise my right hand, I can wiggle my fingers, I can walk across the street, I can run, I can make the choice to do actions voluntarily, whether it's lifting my arms or doing something, blinking my eyes, and all that. Involuntary, of course, is the opposite, what I don't have control over. And that's how our bodies come together and do both. Now, which one is superior? Well, the involuntary is superior because if my heart stops or my breathing permanently stops or my blood stops circulating, I'm dead and I can't will it back to life. It's out of my control. So the involuntary actions of my body control my life. Just like God, who has authority over life and death, has control over my life in the sense that his plan, his will supersede mine. Even though I have a choice, I can do things. If he wants to have something done in my life, it'll happen. I've given plenty of examples of this about playing chess and other things, but there is a unity within having voluntary actions that we have on our own freely and God's involuntary actions in our lives that we can't control. And that's how the Pharisees understood fate or determinism versus free will and choice. They work together. And of course, one is greater than the other. God, who is the sustainer of life, is greater, just like our involuntary movements in our body is greater than our own ability. So think of it that way. They come together and work together, and they're both, keeping us working in life. Our voluntary actions get us through our day. Our involuntary actions keep us alive and moving, just like God, who is the the controller of life, gives life, takes life, but we have free will. We have choice of good or bad, receiving Jesus or Yeshua, Jesus as a Messiah, or rejecting him. So that's the simplest way I can put it. Hopefully, that does make some sense using the science or biology of the human anatomy. That's how I would explain it because our body does the same thing. We have involuntary and voluntary, and God has, he's the involuntary action that we don't control, and we have our own within ourselves to do freely what we think to do right or wrong. Okay, and but God's plan is superior to ours. So it will work itself through, but we still have responsibility and actions that we can control for ourselves. But again, God's plan is greater. So with that, I hope that help clears up maybe or gives people a better understanding. That's one way I like to put it to people in a way of the science behind it. And that's how the Pharisees understood it. And that's how Paul understood it. That's how the people of that time, if they weren't a Sadducee or an Essean, that's how they understood it. So anyway, I want to also let you know I have two books that just came out. One, The Search for the Language of the New Testament. This is based on my 10 plus years of research and 3 years of writing dealing with the language of the New Testament. Was it Hebrew, Aramaic, or Greek, or all three? What is the primary language? And I get into this deeply in this book. For me, the case is closed on this. I cite all my sources in here. I quote all the early church fathers who mention it. There's a lot of them. I get into the history of where the idea that Hebrew was a dead language and that Aramaic took over and that Greek was, that's all new within the Enlightenment period, 18th, 19th century. Even though, it's not really understood, people follow that tradition of that time frame and academia and forget to go beyond that. So that's the other book. That's the first book. The other book I wrote, of course, is Why the World Needs Jesus. This was a personal book to me. I started writing this when my father, who was diagnosed with cancer, was in hospice early this year. As far as going into hospice, I started writing it and I finished it after he passed. So this book is more personal to me. It's not an academic book. It's an easy read. It talks about the different why the world needs Jesus. Some of the things in here. We get into the heart of the gospel, the problem of sin, why Jesus, the bridge between God and humanity, hope in a broken world, the transforming power of Jesus, Jesus and the purpose of life, Jesus and society today, why the world still needs Jesus today, sharing Jesus with the world, living for Jesus every day, and then, of course, the urgency of knowing Jesus and the final call to faith and action. I also have a prayer for salvation here, Bible verses, questions for personal reflection or group study if this wants to be used as a Bible study. It's just a simple book to read. It's geared for new Christians and even Christians who have been believers for many many years, and also for someone who is on the fence and maybe they're not sure if they should become a Christian or believer. This is for them. This was something, again, very personal and dear to me based on my experience with my father and things going on in life that I thought, even the world needs Jesus in a big way. So this book you can find on Amazon. It's $16.99. My other book is a little more expensive on the $26 side because this is strictly an academic book. Again, all purchases, all proceeds go right into the ministry, helping our translation project and helping this channel grow. So those are the two new books for the rest that I've done this year. Part of my research, the language one of the New Testament is a long process that just completed. My other book I finished this year. It started this year based on again what I was going through with my father. So pick up those copies. Help support the ministry by doing so, or you can donate at the websites links below. But I just want to say thank everybody for tuning in. Thank everybody for supporting. I get a lot of emails, people just thanking me for producing these channel, putting out this channel, providing the information. And my academia has dozens of papers that I get a lot of feedback on, great feedback. So keep sharing, keep liking, keep helping this channel grow as much as you can. So share, like, subscribe. But again, I want to say thank you, and we hope to see you soon. If you have any questions or comments, leave them here, and we'll see you again soon. Have a great day. Blessings.